Hey guys, now it's time to work on the last step of our deep dive, which is creating the bullet for our enemy to use. So since we already have one already created, we're going to go ahead and duplicate this sprite that we already have. So if you just hover over it and right click, you should be able to duplicate this. We're going to rename this enemy shot. And if you remember, now that we have this created, we're just going to go ahead and click back to our enemy that we are using to create them to shoot. And we're going to change this create clone of myself to enemy shot. So now we're going to go back here. We're going to zoom out. And we're going to go ahead and actually delete all this code because we're going to be starting brand new with it. So we're just going to go ahead and just empty it out. Make sure to delete this one next. You can't delete any my blocks by itself if it's being called in a different area, which just means that if this is existing somewhere else, you can't delete this. So we need to remove this first. Okay. And now we're able to do everything else. Okay. So now that we have an empty sprite, we're going to go ahead and go back into costumes. Now we can go ahead and change this too, since it's going to be for a different use, and we don't want it to look the same as our player one. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the paint bucket tool and change its color. Now it's up to you guys how you guys want to create your own. If you guys want to edit it more than what I'm doing, please feel free to do so. I'm just doing this as a quick little easy way to just show you guys the necessary steps. So now that I've changed the look of my shooting, I'm just going to go ahead and use my select tool. I'm going to make a big selection over it. And I'm actually going to turn it so that it's facing the right hand side. Now that that's done, I'm going to go back into the code and we're going to start coding it. First, we're going to go inside of our yellow events tab and we're going to add when I receive green flag. And we're going to go into looks to hide it since we don't want it to show up automatically. The next thing that we want it to do is we want to make sure that every one of its different lists that we're making gets reset. So we're going to go into the yellow events tab and we're going to add another when I receive green flag. We're going to go inside of the variable and add a set bullet counter to 0. Then we're going to scroll down to our list section and we're going to look for delete all of. So this right here, and we're going to add 3 of them. And they're each going to correspond to one of the bubbles we've already made. So one of them is going to be the X position, the other one is going to be Y position, and the last one is going to be direction. Now that we have this, the next thing we want it to do is tell it exactly how we want it to move and act. So we're going to go inside of the control tab, and we're going to add a when I start as a clone. Now we're going to go into looks, and we want it to show. And we also want it to go to the front layer to make sure it's on the same layer as everything else. Next, we're going to go into the blue motions tab, and we're going to add a point in direction. And we're also going to add a go to XY block right underneath it. Inside of the bubble of the point in direction, we're going to go back into our variable and go to our list blocks. And we're going to look for item of direction. So right here, this item 1 of direction, going to fill this in. The 1, we're going to go ahead and go to back into our variable tab, and we're going to add our bullet counter. So this is going to be, again, adding a different ID number to every bullet, and we're going to leave this as direction. Now we're going to hover over the of, and we're going to right click and duplicate, and we're going to use this for the other 2 sections. Okay. The X is going to be with the X position, and the Y is going to be with the Y position. Now that we have that, we need it to move. So we're going to go into control, and we're going to add a repeat until. We're going to go into operators, and we're going to use a less than symbol. The empty bubble, we're going to go inside the blue motions tab to add the Y position bubble. And then the 50, we're going to change to negative 180. Okay. Next, inside here, we're going to go into the blue motions tab, and we're going to add a move 10 steps. And then underneath that, we're going to go inside of control, and we're going to add a delete this clone. So now that we have the movement for the shooting working, the next and last thing we want to do is we want to be able to add a health subtraction when it touches our player. So we're going to go into our control tab, and we're going to add a when I start as a clone. So instead of control, we're going to add a forever and an if then. Inside of the diamond shape, we're going to go into sensing and see if it's touching our player. If it is, we're going to go into the variable tab, and we're going to go ahead and add a change player health by, and this is where you guys kind of figure out what you guys want to do. So I'll just do -5 for right now. And then afterwards, right underneath this, we're going to go into control and add a delete this clone. So now that we have this, we still need to bring back the other two blocks that we've had. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my yellow events tab, add when I receive green flag, change it to when, and then go into control and add a stop all other scripts and sprite. We're going to duplicate this and add one for lose. And the other thing that we can also do is add a sound for our enemy shooting if you guys want to do that. If you do, all you need to do is in between the change player health and delete this clone, you can go into the sound tab. You can add a start sound. You can click on the sound tab, click on choose a sound, go into effects and find the sound that you want. Once you've clicked on it, you can just go ahead and then swap out the sound. So now that this is all set, the last thing that you need to do is, as you're playing the game, you might want to go into your enemy and you'll need to shift it because it's going to be moving a little bit off, and you just want to reorientate it so that it's facing correctly. So if I click on my green flag and click on play, you can see that my enemy is shooting at me. So you see that they're facing the incorrect way. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a big selection box over my enemy. And I'm just going to start turning them. And now if I click on my green flag and play my game, you can see they start facing a little bit of a better way. Turning them until they're about what I want them to be. That's fine. Notice that I'm not completely moving the enemy, I'm just turning them. Once I've turned them exactly where I want them to face, I can go ahead and click on my code tab, and then I'm all set and I'm able to play my game just the way I want. Remember that if you do want to do this for your other enemies, you guys can. You just have to re-edit their code the same way we did it for our first enemy. The next thing you'll need to do is recreate this enemy shot. And then you'll also need to figure out the new player health that you want to add for it. And you might need to create a new variable for this bullet counter. Other than that, you're pretty much all set. And now you have an enemy that fully attacks you.